Welcome. We're live. My name's Mike Crawford. Right on time. I don't even know what to make of this. We're like kicking butt lately on the show production. I used to have a lot to complain about. Everything's going good for me. I have nothing to complain about today. But no, there is things. I could get into Twitter and the idiot trolls if I really wanted to waste my life away. But so many good things are happening. My name is Mike Crawford. I am so happy. Check the podcast, anchor.fm/the Young Jurks. We just put out I just put out a great I'm calling it great. Yes, I am tooting my own horn today. This is all about me for a second. But no, I put out a new podcast with Jimmy Miggs, homeless person up in Salem, fighting opiate addiction, also fighting alcohol addiction. He's clean and sober right now, and still a lot of issues and his kind of experience and what's going on out there and what homeless shelters and maybe politicians could be doing more for the homeless and the folks fighting addiction. We'll probably talk more about that, but definitely please listen to that, follow that, subscribe to it. Also, midnightmass.substack.com. Check it out, subscribe, and if you really want to support us, if you want to try to get me to sell my business and give up my day job, throw money down, because that's what's holding me back. I make good money on my day job, but the only way I can quit it is if I replace it with this stuff. You never know. Things are looking good for us. We're working on a lot. Some things we're not going to even mention today, but it could actually happen. 2 years ago, I would say that would never happen. We're kicking butt here. Young Jurks, Disrupt Boston. I got a special guest here. Very excited to have him. State Senator Sal. I'm going to say his name right, hopefully. If I don't, he can hammer me on this. DiDomenico.
Perfect.
Awesome. What's up, man?
It's very unusual getting it right the first time.
Really?
Yes. No
Especially for me. You don't even know. I mangle. Sometimes I'll be doing good with a name and then bang it up at the end and screw it up.
No, you said it perfect.
So give us
We're on the right track.
Yeah. By the end of the show, I'll be saying something else. You'll be like kicking me.
Maybe me too.
So, wow. I mean, I'm happy to have you here. We've tried a bunch of times to do stuff, and it was like a catastrophe every time, but you've stuck with us. Yeah. And we're in this beautiful spot today.
Yes. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. And you got some good bills we're going to talk about. People have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. We have limited time. I want to get to one that you just brought up to me as a bill that you're sponsoring, co-sponsoring?
I'm Senate sponsor.
Senate sponsor.
Yep.
And it's breakfast for children, for kids?
Breakfast after the bell. So it provides breakfast in the classroom for all kids, regardless of income level. We know growing up, the low-income kids went to the cafeteria to get the free breakfast, and everyone else went to the classroom. And there's a stigma attached to that. The low-income kids don't want to be seen as being different than everyone else. And a lot of these kids should be eating breakfast, and they will skip breakfast because they don't want to be seen as low-income kids. And many of these families and many of these children haven't eaten until their previous meal was the lunch in the classroom the day before. So we can have the best schools, best technology, the best teachers. If a child comes to school hungry, they're not ready to learn. So this bill will provide everyone a breakfast in the classroom in a social setting, community setting, and no one will be treated any differently.
So every kid will get a lunch, even the kids that have money, and
every kid will get breakfast in the classroom after the first bell, and they'll be eating together as one unit. And there's some. You would think it'd be a no-brainer, right? You would think providing breakfast for all kids would be seen as an easy bill to pass. Not the case.
What's the pushback?
Not the case. Anything that you change in the classroom, any kind of change from the norm. People look at it in a different way. People think you're taking away from learning time, which is not true. Having food in the classroom is also something people don't like. But those two things, for me, are not enough to having all of our kids having breakfast together. So we've been fighting this. The Senate passed this bill last session. Our Senate president passed it the first day she became the Senate president on her first session. So this is a really a big issue for us. And on Monday, we have a hearing at the State House.
So is the House the issue? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm not saying that. Well, they have an opportunity to pass this session. So we're hoping that we will all be on the same page. We have a committee hearing on Monday. We have the House sponsor, the Senate, myself, the Senate sponsor, and a bunch of reps and senators standing with us, telling the committee we want to report this out favorably so we can get this moving this session as well.
a lot of questions. So probably some the types of questions you're not used to being asked. Some of these, so just
I'm looking at that. I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm raising my eyebrows here.
But
Yeah.
that's why, because we try to ask questions that haven't been asked in other places.
Yes. So
I'm trying to figure out which one I want. Do you see any on here that you like right now?
Let's see.
Let me ask this for Jason Lewis. I like this. Jason Lewis brought up about
yeah.
corporate boards and nonprofit boards. He's
Yep.
got a bill that would try to increase women and minorities, because we're still finding, after all these years, that most of these nonprofit institutions and for-profit corporate boards are almost always white males.
Right.
Would you support something like
Absolutely. I might actually be a co-sponsor of that.
of that bill?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think I'm going to be with you on everything right
Yeah,
there.
right there. You already see it. Well, let me ask you this one. Mayor Joe Curtatone posted something about liquor licenses.
Okay.
It seems like liquor licenses are controlled by the state still. Is that right on the city and town level? They determine.
There are certain there are certain numbers for cities and towns. So you have to appeal to the state to increase it.
To increase.
Yeah.
And Mayor Curtatone suggested that the cities and towns should decide. They shouldn't have to go to the state to ask for approval to increase, liquor licenses. Would you support something like that? Do you think that needs to change?
There has to be some sort of regulation. We have the ABCC, which is a state agency, and they regulate all the licenses, and so there has to be some sort of oversight across the board, because you can't have 300 in one community and then 25 in another. So there has to be some balance. And the reason why we do it at the state level is that balance is created there, and we can do the full picture as opposed to being segmented by city. So I know what he's saying, and he's a good friend of mine.
Do you think there's a problem there? There's something that could be incrementally fixed?
What I see as a problem sometimes is the lower income neighborhoods are not getting licenses.
Right.
So that is the issue I see more than a state issue.
Right. Like in Boston, for instance. Like all of them are in Beacon Hill, Back Bay, because that's where the money is. Newbury Street, maybe Fenway, Kenmore, but people at Roxbury, they don't have as many dining options, because there aren't as many liquor licenses.
Right. And Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, when she was a Boston City Councilor, was fighting that battle.
Right.
And it's economic development. It really is when you think about it. If you can't have a restaurant with a liquor license, then you don't have a restaurant. And that's not something that we want to encourage. We want to make sure people have equity again across the board. So the state can see the whole picture, where the cities and towns can segment it out. So we disagree on a lot, the mayor and I, but this is one issue that I think the way it's working now seems to be working fine.
All right. This is one we've been asking everyone that's been coming in, especially city councilors. But safe injection sites is a big issue right now. Mayor Walsh is talking about. We just had Mayor Mark McGovern in here last week. He's totally for it.
Yeah.
What do you think about that on a state level?
Yeah, no, I've been supportive of it, and it's a tricky situation. Obviously, a lot of people look at it and not in my backyard type of thing. And but if we're serious about trying to curb the issues that we have in terms of addiction and trying to find new and innovative ways to tackle this, because honestly, a lot of what we're doing is not working. And we put a lot of money into that area. We do a lot of education. We do a lot of, we have a lot of services, and we do a lot. But there's just something. It's an epidemic that just is not going away.
It's not.
And it's touching everybody, as you mentioned at the start of your program. So what I have tried to focus on, too, is try to educate our young children to not make this be a problem for the next generation. And we used to think that we could stop this later in high school. Now I think with middle schools,
it's almost too late.
Exactly.
Can be. Not always, but sometimes.
But and a lot of kids have misinformation about these things too. That things aren't addictive, and they think it's just play and it's fun, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, their life is on a different track. So education is a big component of this. But injection sites, we have to, something has to change. We have to shake it up a little bit, and that's one of the issues that.
Do you think that there's any support on the state level? Because you're in the
Senate.
It's a
tough
do you think
issue.
It would get through the Senate? Do you think they'll look at that, or not?
There's a lot of progressive members of the Senate and the House too now, but this is an issue that's just not progressive and conservative. It's philosophical as well. So it's a tough issue.
It's probably my toughest question. I don't know, maybe not. We'll see. Recently, there's been an issue. This has always been kind of a simmering issue, but developer money specifically. And the old building that we were in was called the EMF building. We had a station with WEMF. And it basically we got displaced with a lot of other artists by this developer named John DiDomenico. And this has come up with the Cambridge election the last couple of weeks. People probably know the name.
Full disclosure, I know John very well.
Campaign contributions, because I'm looking at his campaign contributions and I saw your name that you received
John,
money.
Can
you speak about that? Do you know what we're talking about too?
I don't know too much about what you're talking about, but John and I have been friends. Actually, John's father and actually probably our grandfathers were friends. But John, I know he owns a lot of property in Harvard Square, but I don't know what the issue you're talking about though.
He bought a building that was all artist space, and he basically displaced people and kicked them out. And the artists really wanted to see the city buy the building, or be able, because it's just too expensive.
Sure.
It was the last building where musicians could practice, where we had recording studios, where we had our radio station, our streaming station, where bands recorded albums.
Yeah, sure.
Artists, bands could basically go in there and get their practice, perform for fans, create merchandise in the building. Like, there were so many artists, like everything could be done in that building, from the recording of the music to the production of the CD to just everything. And it was a one-stop place, and it's gone. And people are upset.
This was in Harvard Square.
Yeah, he owned it. He bought it. And there was a lot of it's just become an issue. His name is and I think the bigger issue that one of the candidates for Cambridge City Council is bringing up is taking money from developers specifically, and he's taken a pledge not to do that. You've taken money from John DiDomenico.
Yeah. So
what do you think about
and John is more, from John and I, it's not politics.
Right.
When I first ran for city council in Everett, when he had no stake in the game in Everett at all, and he was a donor just because he was my friend.
Okay.
And he wanted to see people like me have a chance to compete with the other guys who might have had more money. When I first ran for state senate, I was outraised, and I had a hustle. I had people that were much more well-financed than me and had bigger names and bigger connections, and I was a counselor in Ward 3 in Everett. So I was just not even a citywide counselor back then. So there are a lot of folks that have, if you look at my campaign contributions, you won't find many developers. There are a lot of folks that have just been friends of mine for a long time, and friends that I've developed over the years as well. I don't get a lot of max out donations. That's not my base. My base is small donations from people that I know, people from the neighborhoods that I represent, and a lot of friends and family. So I hustle. I do hustle because you have to get your message out there. The worst part about politics is raising money, and I say that all the time. And everyone says it's a cliche, but it really is. It's tough, and it's not a good way to have this all going that way. You have to do this to get your message out, but you have to find a way to get all the good things that you think you're doing to the general public.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned hustle, because I do see you. I follow you on your Facebook and just booking. Like, I know that you hustle. I know that you're out there every single day in your community.
Yeah.
We're not in Everett right now, but we're close by your district, and like, you're always, this is kind of rare for you to step outside the district today, isn't it, in a weird way?
This is I'm in the district.
Oh, you are? This is still part of it?
Yes.
See, I wasn't sure. We weren't going to talk about where we're at Dick Boston
I'm just going to say, I'll tell you the towns in my district. So
okay.
I have Everett.
So you haven't left your district?
I have not,
no. And you know exactly.
I know exactly where I am.
I assumed it wasn't, but no, I thought it was Cambridge, Everett.
I have Everett, Chelsea, Charlestown, Alston, Brighton, Cambridge, and the west end of Boston.
Okay, so part of Boston.
So there's about 175,000 people in my district, and very different district, as you can imagine. Having Cambridge, where I grew up, I'm an East Cambridge kid.
East Cambridge. That's where I was living for a while.
There you go.
I loved it.
My father is still there. We have a flower shop called Flowers by Sal on the corner there. In East
Oh,
Cambridge.
that's your flower shop.
That's my father's.
How many times have I driven by that?
Yeah.
How many times have we all driven? Because that's a cut through from Somerville to
it's a landmark. He's been there 50 years. So
wow, that's so funny.
I grew up on top of the flower shop. Flowers by Sal.
It's that sign.
Right.
It's that sign.
That's
Flowers by Sal.
The original sign from 1969.
Wow.
Yeah. So this year he celebrates 50 years, and I grew up on top of the flower shop. That's where I grew up, right
wow,
there.
I know exactly. That's where Black Mass was filmed.
Right across the street.
Yeah, because I walked through there when they were filming it.
We were watching, and actually, Sean Penn came into the flower shop at 3 a.m.
Oh, really, Sean Penn?
And he was. We were all there. My kids, my wife, my nieces. We were watching them film. and he came into the store and talked to all the kids.
That's
and
funny.
it was funny because he did his Jack Sparrow routine dressed as Whitey Bulger to the kids.
Oh,
So
you're talking about, but not Sean Penn. Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp, Sean Penn, Johnny
That's
Depp.
all right.
Jeez, yeah.
I was wondering, I'm like, is Sean Penn in that movie too?
No, Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp.
Of all people, Johnny Depp. He was great. I have to say, he was. You hear some stories about
So it was
stars.
actually Johnny Depp that came out.
But Johnny Depp was in the store.
What time was it? 3 in the morning.
3 in the
Was
morning.
he sober? Let's find out if he's sober.
He was, and he was great to the kids. I have to say, he was fantastic to all the kids. There were 6, 7 kids in the store, and he came in, and he was great. He was great.
Wow, that's something. We're speaking to Senator Sal DiDomenico. They say it right again?
It's good.
Almost stumbled. 502-501-3477 is our phone number if you want to call in too, or leave instant feedback for us on our Facebook. We'll read it. We got a lot more questions. You're good. I like you answer the questions directly. Get right to it. A lot of politicians, it's a half hour to get one answer, and I'm like, this list is going to be gone before you know.
I have a lot to talk about. I have other topics. I can
that's what. Before we get into my list,
Yeah.
what do you want to talk about? Like, what do you want to? I mean, you're working. There's an agenda. Like, is there anything that you just want to bring and make people aware of today?
Yeah. Well, and then I think this I saw it in there too. I can touch on some immigration stuff.
Safe communities.
Safe communities. I'm a co-sponsor of that. And people get confused about what that really is. People look at that and say sanctuary state, and then they don't understand that a lot of local law enforcement officers support some sort of safe communities language, and they have in the past. And they actually stood with the sponsors of the bill at the State House and supported language very similar to what was filed.
I think I know why, but can you tell people why? Like, you hear from them? I'm sure I don't want to misquote them, but why? Why do they?
Why
support
law
it?
enforcement support some? Yeah, because
Specifically.
there are a couple things. They don't want to be. They don't want to be the federal agencies to enforce federal law, and they have a hard time getting people to speak to them.
That's right.
And they have a very difficult time with domestic violence cases and trying to get people to speak to them and solve cases and make things better
And be
for the
witnesses
communities.
in crimes.
Right. So it's a very, very difficult situation when you find immigrants who are victims and they don't want to speak and they're afraid to speak. And even the census, like there's so many things. This whole thing, immigration debacle that's happening in D.C. right now. And we have someone who is perpetrating, I'll say it, hatred, and it's someone who doesn't understand common sense, process and programs and how things help and should be helping people, not hurting people. And safe communities is a way where we can try to level the playing field and try to make people feel like their voice matters, and they are part of the community. They are part of the process, and they are part of trying to make our communities better. Safe communities. That's why it's called that.
Right.
Because we don't have that's language in place, and we don't have everyone working together. We won't have safe communities.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
And the census too. So I'm a big proponent of the census. We filed an amendment to the budget, which increases funding for, and this is even hard to even imagine, but there are people that don't even want to sign any public document for fear of what's happening in D.C. So even though they get assurances that the census is going nowhere, they don't want to sign up. They don't want to sign anything. So there are very difficult parts of my district, in particular, that we're having a hard time trying to count people, and every dollar. And sometimes some people say it's by design, by the people up on the top, who don't want everybody counted in communities like ours, because then we won't get federal funds as much as we deserve and much as we need. So it's a vicious cycle where people are afraid. And now we lose services, lose money, lose resources because they're not being counted in federal census. So it's a tough situation, but it all starts from a lot of rhetoric and a lot of talk from the top that gets people scared and afraid of what could be.
Do you think that has a chance of passing this time?
We did it in the Senate budget last year. I actually spoke on the floor. There's only I think 3 of us that spoke on the floor in favor. It passed in a pretty good margin in the Senate, but it didn't make it through conference committee. And I know that it was filed again by Jamie Eldridge this year, and there's a lot more momentum behind it this year because it passed the Senate in a budget amendment, which is pretty unusual to have that kind of policy passed in the Senate budget, that heavy-duty kind of policy. But there's a lot of people that are pushing for that bill this time in
Good.
both branches. So I feel pretty good about this.
Oh, let's hope
The-
so.
the
What can
Repub-
people do to like make that happen? Like the average person listening, what can they help you out with that?
They can contact leadership in both branches. They can contact the chairs of the committees. The sponsors need help. Or actually contact your own rep or senator, and let them know that this is important. And it's not, the Republican Party has done a pretty good job on this bill. They took out Facebook ads on every person who's a sponsor, including myself, and put a graphic on a paid ad, actually, of my face, and says, DiDomenico wants sanctuary state.
Really, they're attacking you guys on Facebook
Oh,
with
well,
ads?
individually.
Yeah.
Individually, yeah. And that's okay. That's part of what we do, but they don't have the information correct. If they want to beat me up on things, at least be correct about what you
that sounds familiar. That's what I was talking about, the Twitter people today.
Yeah,
They were saying we have no. They were saying a lot of things about me. Let me ask you this. It's I'm going back to the Twitter people. The Twitter people. They have a lot of listeners too. We'll take a call. Have you ever gotten interviewed by someone that smells like cannabis like I do?
No.
Am I boring?
You're not boring at all. No.
There you go.
No.
There you go. The senator said I'm not boring.
Not at all. I wouldn't call you boring at all.
First time he's ever been interviewed by someone that just. I always wonder.
I don't even smell it, to be honest.
Oh,
with
you
but
don't?
I don't.
all right.
I was wondering if I was, but I don't.
I don't want to smoke anyone else. But we'll take another phone call. I know the phone call hung up, but 502-501-3477. We will take your calls. Call in if you want. We'll put you on the air. We have no screeners. 502-501-3477, especially if you have a question or a comment on our show or a question for Senator Sal. Call him Senator Sal or Flowers by Sal.
Flowers by Sal is good too, but people call me Senator Sal all the time because they can't say my last name.
I love it.
Senator Sal is just how
I love Senator Sal.
And my staff calls themselves Sal Squad.
Sal Squad?
Hashtag Sal Squad.
Sal Squad. I like that. Wow. There's a lot we can do with the name
We have a lot going on here, yeah.
Now, Senator Sal, since we brought up cannabis and
that's fine.
The cologne I usually have on me on Saturdays on my, because I work all week, and by the time I come Saturday, I'm like, oh, I need my medicine. I need to relax. I don't know how to relax. By Saturday, I get weird. And then I do the show. So,
all ramped up
yeah,
again,
my life is weird, but it's fun. I love it. We got another call. We'll take the call. We're talking about cannabis, too. I want to make sure we get the cannabis questions in, but let's see who's on the phone. Do we have the caller yet on the line? Yeah. Who's calling?
Oh, sorry. I was the one that hung up.
It's okay.
I apologize. My bad. So, this is Carrie Occasion. How are you guys doing?
Hey, Kerry.
Carrie, how are you?
Good.
I know Carrie.
Yes. So I just wanted to ask the state senator. He's been so good with reaching out to women and people of color and really including them in his initiatives. And I'd just like to know maybe some advice to maybe other men in power, like what could they do? Maybe some advice you would give to them to be more inclusive of other people and have them join your initiatives and that kind of stuff.
Well,
Could you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. I think, people are definitely trying to be more inclusive. People trying to reach out to a broad audience, and a lot of the bills that we have filed, as you know, Carrie, have addressed some of these issues, including healthy youth, which is the Me Too movement, and dealing with the issues of LGBT issues and consent and all of that issues. So there are plenty of issues that we have at the State House that, and a lot of people from all backgrounds in the Senate and the House have been co-sponsors of all these bills. There's different attitude, different culture, different things that are happening at the State House right now. And I think, people, the Emerge program, as you know, I'm sure Kerry knows Emerge.
Yeah,
Emerge has really changed the landscape in politics. And I'm on the male board.
Oh, you are? You're
yes,
on that?
So I am on the...
Oh, you're on the board for Emerge? Awesome. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
We had someone that used to work over there last week. Oh, my God, I'm forgetting her name. Judy Neufeld. You know
Judy, yeah, of course I know Judy.
Yeah,
sure, I know Judy. But I think that there are a lot of opportunities now for folks to I think in politics sometimes...
you do it so naturally and organically, Steve. That's why I wanted to kind of get that out there. You call people up, tell them to show up. That's kind of what I wanted you to let people know that you can, just tell them, be like, come to that meeting. We need to see you. We need to hear your voice. And I think that's really important.
And too, during the presidential campaign last time, we were big supporters of Hillary Clinton, and we had buses leaving from my own home every weekend going up to New Hampshire, And
Yep.
we were a big part of her campaign up in Rochester, New Hampshire. That was our headquarters up there. And we brought a lot of folks from Everett and Chelsea and Charlestown and Cambridge and to go up there and be part of something like that. And just exposing people to different things and showing them it's not just what's in our own backyard. It also, look at them in a different view. People can get a different way of looking at different things. So, that's just how I was brought up. I have 3 sisters, so
Yeah. You think that has a big deal to do with it?
yeah. And my wife's, she says she's a boss, and I say yes, you are the boss. Okay,
Were the 3 sisters older than you or younger?
all younger.
All young.
All
So you're
younger.
the oldest.
Yes.
Oh, you're like me, oldest sibling.
And my chief of staff at the State House is a woman, so she is my wife,
Phenomenal,
my
yep.
chief of staff. Everybody's in charge but me.
There you go.
All right, thanks. I figured I'd call in since I saw you. You're
Thanks.
doing awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Carrie.
Carrie.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you. I know Carrie too, but I think that's our first time calling. So first time callers, we love them. And you brought her out today,
Yes,
Senator Sal.
Carrie's a good friend. Yeah, she's great.
502-501-3477. We're going back to that cannabis because people are asking online as well. You know one part of it because I've been joking online about it. Yeah, yesterday I was giving, in the last couple of weeks we've been giving, we fought, for decrim, medical, legal, but we still see an issue with the dispensaries, even though they're open, that they're not serving all the patients, especially the ones that are living on $1,000 a month from the state that are disabled. They can't afford the cost of the dispensary, so they're still on the black market, gray market. The dispensary office is like 10% off, but it's too expensive at these dispensaries still. So we started giving it out for free.
That's a good point. Yeah,
and
actually.
especially like the homeless and the addicted, people who really can't afford it. We've been providing it from local growers who are legally growing and then gifting it to me to distribute it to the,
Wow.
So this is a nice little thing we're doing. And because of that, someone said you should also be offering your politician friends some free cannabis and see if any of them take it. Maybe we'll make some headlines. And I want to see if I give you some free cannabis. I got some in my pocket right now, a couple of joints. It's legal. You can take them. I'm taking out
it is
cigarette
legal.
package though. I don't want people to see the cigarette package.
I can't take any gifts as a state employee.
You can't.
No.
What if I give it to your campaign manager or your
It would go to
or your
waste.
bride.
It would go to waste.
Oh, it would go to waste.
I can say I've
you
never.
just
I've
gave the
never
right
tried
answer.
It.
All right, you haven't tried it, but
Yeah.
because I was gonna say there's a couple, obviously, you can't take a bribe or whatever, like you're saying, but this wouldn't be a bribe. This would be a gift of friendship, number one. But you just made the true, like the true answer. Like, why waste it? Like, I can give it to my homeless guy.
Yeah.
Like, give it to someone else that wants
There's
it.
no reason because
You don't use it.
I wouldn't. I've never tried it. I honestly, I'm boring, so I don't drink. I've never tried that.
You're boring like I am.
Yeah,
except
so
I
it's
smoke weed.
two boring guys talking to each other.
I got a bad back, and I found that alcohol and the pills weren't good for me. That's what happened to me. But anyways, the real cannabis questions.
Sure.
People are asking about social equity.
Right.
And there's a bill at the State House that didn't go through, but it looked like it had a lot of, kind of support there. It looked like something might happen quickly.
You mean the budget amendment? You mean
I don't really know all the details. It's about social equity to fund it. Like, basically.
having a fund? Yeah.
Yeah, the big cannabis is taken over. The little guy's been shut out, and the real thing is financing. So, people want to maybe get some funding for the little guy. And also, there's also people want to see micro growers get priority because big cannabis got the priority by de facto already being open. So where do you stand on that?
Yeah, so there was a budget amendment filed by, I believe, Senator Chang Diaz.
That's right. It was Shane Diaz.
So she filed the amendment, and something like that would have to go through the process more than the budget amendment. From what I understand, the Cannabis Commission didn't even have time to vet it at that point because there was a budget amendment, so it came up pretty quick. But I know the premise makes sense to me. And also the equity part about having these big corporations coming into our communities and paying their 3%, and sometimes, most of the time, much more than that, to entice the local officials to choose them over the regular people.
And to keep them out in a lot of cases.
Right.
Too.
So that's a loophole that we have to address in some sort of way because these big companies, the national companies, are coming in and making a ton of money, and the areas that were affected most by the drug epidemic are the ones that should be getting the benefit
Yes.
from those folks. So it's a tough situation because we didn't anticipate that people would come in and basically pay over the 3%. And to be fair, being a local official, what are you going to do? You see a lot of money there, and you see a lot of money that you can spend in your communities. But we have to find a way to bring it back down to the original intent.
There's also the micro growers who want to see like priority status on themselves.
Yeah.
They have like a different license classification, and they seem to be, like I said, mostly the local people we know.
Right.
Not big cannabis. Would you like to see them get priority too?
Yeah, I don't know too much about that piece of it, but again, from what you're saying, yeah, that
Something you'd look at?
Yeah, absolutely. That's an issue that I haven't heard too much about, but you're going down a list of.
Yeah, I'm going down the list. I think we all got almost everything. There's like maybe one question left, which is a crazy one. We got a phone call too. We'll take. Who's on the line right now? You got a question for Senator Sal?
Yes, this is L.V. Randolph. I represent the Roxbury Business Development Group.
Say your name again, because I didn't quite hear it first time. LD?
L.V. Randolph.
LV.
Yep, I know who you are, LV. I know all about you. Yep.
That is correct. We've met before,
Yes.
and I wanted to make sure that I took the opportunity to broach this question, and I know that you've talked about it, but I think it's really, really important to recognize what's happening historically. Historically, people of color, particularly African Americans, have been locked out of economic opportunities, even here in Massachusetts. And when many of us look at what's happening with the cannabis legislation and access to those markets, knowing that our communities were the most affected by the war on drugs, and we're seeing the rollout of this legislation, and we're systemically being locked out, it leaves a bad taste.
Sure.
That bad taste has many different effects. One, it has an economic effect, right? Because we don't get to participate in this boom, right? The other effect it has is it prevents people from wanting to engage in the political system. And then they don't vote.
Right.
Because they don't think it works for them.
Right.
This is another example of how things don't work for us, right? And I don't care who you are from, even in politics at the state level, or all the way down to the guy who, delivers flowers or drives Uber. That thought system, that thought is there in the back of people's minds. So as an elected official, I'd really like to hear how you believe we can address this issue. Because, and I understand that there's big money coming in from everywhere, but people can make choices.
Right.
And you represent me. I can't remember when I didn't vote for you when your name was on the ballot. So I'd like to know, how are you going to address this issue? I know that Cambridge and Somerville have gotten it right, but this is a larger issue, and Massachusetts as a state is being pointed to as the one that got it wrong. And you know what? We're the guys who should have got it right.
Right.
Thank you, Elvie. Let's let this get the state senator to kind of
no, you're absolutely right, Elvie. This is a broad issue. There's a lot going on there, and when the law was written, there was a lot of good intentions there, but it wasn't tight. There were a lot of places where there was some, as I mentioned to Mike earlier, a lot of loopholes, and a lot of places where we had thought we would be able to have some equity across the board, but we have found that is not the case. And the amendment that was filed by Sonny Chang Diaz has a lot of merit and a lot of support behind it. And I believe that that is a way we can create some equity. That having some sort of a funding mechanism for people who can compete with the big guys, and the big guys that are coming in and monopolizing the entire state at this point. I hear from a lot of my friends in the industry and a lot of folks at the State House, and a lot of people who come and see me in my office who want me to support certain dispensaries and in my district. And the first question I ask is, who are the people behind the curtain?
Who owns it?
Right?
Who really owns it?
Who are the people behind the curtain? Are you the people that are coming to see me, the people, or is there someone or some other company behind you, and you're the front people for the local, the look,
the front person for big cannabis,
the shiny glass slipper that but who's the person putting their foot in that slipper? So, and that's a question that I always ask, and I get varying answers, to be honest with you, because they don't expect those questions sometimes out of me. So there is a way to do it. Chang Diaz's amendment is a good start to do that, but we have to close that loophole too, and that 3% threshold, and we have to find a way to, as you said, Cambridge and Somerville are getting it right. But we have to find a way to put some more teeth into that, and the Cannabis Control Commission has to be a part of that solution. And the intent is not being followed because money is a very big aspect of this, and we all know this industry is a multi-million-dollar industry just in some communities, and it could be $1 billion industry across the country. It is a $1 billion industry across the country, but that's where we have to start. But I think there's plenty of room to a lot of improvements, and you hit it on the head, LV. Not every community is being treated the same way. Definitely.
LV, you have any?
I really appreciate your answer, and I thank you for being forthright. And I know, based on your record, that you're going to do the right thing here. I would make a suggestion, and my suggestion is that for the generations of people who have suffered under the wheel of the war on drugs, we should be allowed, if we pass muster, money's not an issue. There's plenty of money out there. But we should be allowed to open businesses that serve cannabis without the need to go through the lengthy community process for a host agreement. That would be my suggestion. And I thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thanks, LV.
Thank you so much, LV. And please continue to listen and call in. I really liked your call today. Another first-time caller. That was good. He was really...
He's great. No, he knows his stuff.
He wanted to make sure we really got into that, which I like. Because I want to just even go back to that a little bit. Like, I see that you're in the right place on this. What about the rest of the State House? Do they understand how many people like LV are out there? I mean, if I didn't ask that question today, a lot of people are going to hang me. I mean, this is what if I had to pick the number one issue for our audience today, it'd probably be that one. Okay. And I haven't even talked about rents yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. And rents is obviously in traffic and some of the other issues, immigration we've talked about. There are a lot of big issues, but this is the one that people are just.
Yeah, and rightfully so, because it's a new industry coming in, and a lot of folks are jumping in, and a lot of people are just seeing this as an opportunity to make a quick buck.
Do you think the State House knows, though, like that your other senators, state reps, Bob DeLeo, the leadership in the Senate, do they feel it like you feel it?
I think so. I didn't realize it was an issue until, when it first started happening, it was kind of just, it was there.
A new thing.
Right, and now I think people are getting more informed and more educated about it. And the amendment that was filed by Senator Chang Diaz was looked at.
Why didn't that pass?
It's tough to make that kind of policy change in the state budget. And it was filed, pretty quickly, and the Cannabis Commission didn't have time to weigh in on it. Which is, we created that commission to weigh in on issues like this, and if they didn't have time to address it and find a way to give us a straight answer on it, it was there are other ways to do this besides the budget.
So when's that, this session, it can be brought up again?
It can, yeah. It can be filed as a bill anytime. And then it has to go to the committee process. And then it'd be examined like any other bill would be examined.
Okay.
So she could file a bill to address this issue. She could bring it up in the next year's budget. But
Would you sign on to something like that, co-sponsor?
Yeah, I feel like the devil's in the details, obviously.
Right. Yeah,
So
definitely.
so the premise itself, it makes sense to me.
Good.
But I have to, I don't sign on until I read it.
Oh, definitely. I get that. I believe me. I mean, you know me. I was for legalization, but I had to read it, and even then, I still had issues with, even though I supported it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right. And sometimes it's not the perfect bill.
Sometimes you just got to take what you can get.
Exactly. And sometimes you want more.
But sometimes you got to say no. Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes you can say this is not the right time. If we wait, we'll get more later, even if it's short term, hopefully.
Right.
But okay. Yeah, we had a bunch of other questions too. I don't even know if I want to get to them really, but I want to get to the phone calls if we get more of them. 502-501-3477. If we're missing anything, we do have more comments too on our Facebook pages. I should just read a couple of them. Mostly people just like you, like truthfully. Like there's not too much, people are asking who you're related to. There are people posting nonsense that I don't even understand what they're saying, but it's mostly just good show, Mike. Wow, they like me too for once. Holy crap. Sal, you get us new listeners. You made me easy. I'm boring today.
No,
more boring.
It's good. No, these are some heavy duty issues. I don't get the chance to talk like in depth about a lot of issues. Like usually we talk about one issue at a time. This is
I like you because you speed round them.
I try. You just answer the question.
And your answer, you like really answer them. Like that's refreshing. I think all politicians should check out you coming in today. I swear to God. State Bank. Let me ask about that question. This is something that came up again for the cannabis issue, but it's also just affects everyone, especially with housing and loans. And a lot of times certain neighborhoods don't get the same treatment from banks that other neighborhoods do. And it also, a lot of people think this is a way to remove money from Wall Street and have the state save money and get more, power. State Bank, is that something you even think about? Or
I haven't looked into that too much. People have asked me about it. I've had people come to my office and ask me to file bills about different things like that. I think I'm gonna have co-sponsored a couple of bills with that. I tend to use local banks. So the big ones don't do much for me.
Right.
So, and what you're saying, disproportionately affecting different communities, that is true. The big banks just don't. They know where they want to do business, and they know they don't want to do business.
And they redline.
They do.
There's red line banking. People want to know where the racism in. They say there's no racism in. There's racism in 8 million different ways, and this is just one of them.
Yeah, no, the banking industry is. I don't want to use the word I want to say on the air.
Too. Both classism and racism.
But the local banks, me being from East Cambridge Savings Bank is a real leader in the community. They do a lot, and they're entrenched, and they know the neighborhood, they know the people, they know the organizations that they give back to charities. They really do a good job. So State Bank is something I've looked into, but I haven't focused a lot of time on that.
All right, let's ask more serious questions that affect people. Like two of the biggest ones, obviously. Number one is housing.
Yeah.
A lot of folks are getting gentrified out. There's talk of bringing rent control back.
Yep.
There's talk about creating more public housing, changing the way that people qualify for the public housing. What do we do? Like, how do we make sure that people don't get priced out? I've even had like Somerville city councilors come on here and say that they were worried about getting priced out of the district, that they were the poorest city councilor and they were the only one. They were renting. And it seems like, to even be a city councilor, you got to own a proproperty because you'll get priced out too. Like, it's just... This is what happens now. People just can't afford it.
They can't afford it, and it's happening everywhere. My hometown now, where I live, Everett. The property values have skyrocketed, so the landlords are charging more rent to account for the different taxes and different things that are happening.
The water, the sewer, everything.
Everything.
I know. I pay the homeowner bills. I know what you're talking about. The taxes keep going up. Our water bills are up. Everything is up. Every bill that we have as a homeowner is up, but. Still, the renters aren't going to feel that. They're just, my rent is going through the roof, and I'm having to move, and people keep having to move. What can be done on a state level for this? How do we fix this type of issue? It's like we're a victim of our own success in a way.
That's the problem. So every community, if you're the mayor of a community, you want growth. You want to increase the value of your properties within your communities, and then we all say we don't want the longtime families to move out because they've created that success. And now we're going to have someone else come in and take advantage of all the benefits that they created. So, to two things. I filed a bill called Right to Counsel Bill, which will allow tenants to have counsel. We'll have an attorney. So these big landlords are able to go to housing court and evict people sometimes for not even just cause, like different things that they realize the tenant's paying a lower rent. I can double that rent, and I can put somebody else in there, and I need to get this person out, and let's just take them to court and make up some frivolous thing to do that.
Yeah.
And tenants don't have the resources to compete with the big guys. So I filed a bill with the help of Marty Walsh to keep people in their homes by having
them
them
legal representation.
legal representation when they go to court. So now they have somebody sitting across the table from the other
Would that
attorney.
be for every renter, or would you have to qualify for
You have to
that?
qualify for it, but it would stabilize the housing market, and also a lot of, from what I'm hearing too, because you would think to get a lot of pushback on that from the homeowners. The small property owners have written a couple of letters, but the big companies like having somebody at the table where they can negotiate. So the big companies want to resolve things, and sometimes having an attorney there will allow it to happen quicker. So I never thought of that. I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for the renters.
Yeah.
But that has been some of the feedback we've been getting from them as well. And this is a bill that's going through the committee process now. It has not made it out of the committee, but it is something that we're working on. And also community development corporations. So community development corporations like Justice Start in Cambridge.
I was going to say Justice Start. I'm very familiar with them.
Justice Start is one of the best in the entire state. And then,
But even with them, there's issues. I mean, I've, certain people make too much or too little to get into them.
Right.
And even the
To
way that
qualify.
when you sell them and try to get out of it, some of all those, like, I don't know how they do it now, but I know certain homeowners that have different contracts in the same building. And one
Really?
person made out and one person didn't because of when they bought.
In the
And
same
it's
building?
Like one contract said your return is based on principal plus treasury notes, which were what, 0 over that? I mean, this is what, where someone else, they got to actually participate in the value of the real estate moving up.
Right.
And so I question even some of those companies, like who's oversighting Justice Start to make sure that, number one, people can get in that can afford it. Because I feel like I don't even trust those companies because I've had, I don't want to say everything, but I have a personal level experience with specifically Justice Start and other companies. So I'm just wondering, like,
how
do we look at that? How do we make sure that
Yeah.
people are really that need them are getting in? And because it feels like people either make, I made 40,000 last year, so I can't get in, or I qualify, but I can't afford their down payment to get in. You know what I mean? So people are getting, they either make a little too much, or they don't they don't have enough savings to get into them.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard I heard some of that, but not to that extent.
Yeah.
Because we have one in Chelsea called the Neighborhood Developers, in Chelsea and Revere, and now they came into Everett, and I would swear by them because I know people, I've referred people to them, and they've always been 100% success rate.
And I'm not saying like they're a bad thing or anything. There was one experience that I had with a certain building, and those are old contracts too. So I don't know what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know with the new people. Who knows?
Well, it's a much more streamlined process today. I know that, and it is regulated by the state. So the oversight does come from the state.
That's what I was wondering. Who does the oversight of these groups? Because that's what I get worried about.
Well, a lot they use some state funding, funding and federal funding. So they have to meet certain benchmarks for both federal and state to qualify for that funding. And the oversight does come from those departments. But that is a way that I found in parts of my district where people can stay in these communities, and particularly seniors too, because
Definitely.
Senior housing is a big issue right now.
Huge.
And
I get afraid to get old.
Yeah.
Like, what are we gonna do when we get old? I mean,
it's real.
If you're
It's
not
real.
young thinking about this stuff,
It's real.
you should be, because I mean, how the hell are you gonna afford that? I don't think anyone can afford it. It's crazy.
Right.
So we talked about housing. One of the things about housing you brought up was this covering the attorneys.
Yeah.
There's also kind of a push to do that across the board for like all civil cases. So that, I think housing is probably the biggest issue, but there's also like employment discrimination, sexual stuff that goes on where a poor person gets abused more often
Right.
by people of power because they don't have an attorney, they don't have a civil attorney that can represent them and sue.
Yep.
Would you even go beyond the housing issue?
Yeah. So another one of my bills.
Really? That's your bill?
What's called the wage theft bill.
Yes. You know who I've been hearing this? Jim Browdy's been talking about it.
Jim Browdy was talking about it. Yep. So the wage theft bill will address a lot of the bad treatment, and particularly immigrants and people who can't speak English are getting preyed upon.
I had wage stuff happen to me. I've had friends happen to. It's funny because I've been talking about the Twitter trolls.
Mm-hmm.
There was a bunch of things. In the past I was more libertarian. I even got crazy. I was, my life was like this. It went down here in every single level, and I went a little crazy. And people were pointing out, like going back 8 years or 5 years, whatever it was, and looking at my Twitter thing and stuff. And there's a bunch of things that happened that like shook me out of it.
Yeah.
And one of the things was, I want to thank you, President Barack Obama, who I'd never even voted for. Like, this is how sad it is. My girlfriend kills me every day about this. You never voted for Obama. I should have. I went third party every time. But I'll never make that mistake again. I'm voting for whoever the Democratic primary, whoever wins the Democratic primary for president this time, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I got wage thefted. I lost my career. It was about cannabis. A lot of issues going on in my life. And I had a bad back, and I was mowing lawns. I was trying to wait tables again. And I couldn't go back to that because I had a bad back. So I was doing one of those delivery driving jobs for one of those companies on those apps.
Yep.
And they screwed me over. You would not believe. It led to financial ruin of me, basically. And thank God I'm back where I am. Like, I was literally like mental health case where I was like thinking about like offing myself. That's how bad I was off, right?
Oh.
And these trolls are bringing up my past about it, and I'm like, good, maybe I can tell my story. I'm telling it to you today because what happened was like a year later when I really needed money, Barack Obama's Department of Labor, and I had met with them during that time. They came to see me at the office where we were getting wage thefted and said, we need to talk to some of you because you're getting wage thefted.
Wow.
And they got me a nice check. And that pretty much got me to the point where I am today where I'm like paid off everything. You know what I mean? It saved my ass.
Wow.
And so now we got a guy in office, Trump, who doesn't give two shits. He lets Uber and all these companies abuse their workers. And so we have to do it on the state level, and you're doing something about it. So tell me about this because I am very interested in this.
Yeah.
Wage theft. Tell us about it.
Yeah.
What are you doing about it?
So we filed this bill last session, and it passed the Senate. Another one of my bills had passed the Senate, but didn't make it to the House. But so basically, it will hold. It's different parts of it. Several parts have to do with the construction industry. Construction industry, in particular, it's rampant. And a lot of folks who are who hire subcontractors, and the subs don't pay the employees. The general contractor knows. They all know the players in the industry. They know the good subs, the bad subs. They know the subs that pay, the subs that don't pay. So when they're doing a low bid from a sub that they know isn't really up and up, and they take that person, and then they eventually don't pay their employees, now the general contractor is on the hook to pay the subs employees.
Good.
So no more hiding behind this curtain saying, well, we didn't know.
Right.
And
You're still responsible.
you're still responsible.
You need to find out.
You're getting paid for your work that's being done. You got to pay the people that did the work.
And you're profiting off of the abuse.
You're profiting off the abuse, and in not all cases, but there are some bad guys out there. There are some good guys out there that do a good job of this, but there are some historically they do it over and over and over, and they know. I'm not going to name names, but if you look them up online, you'll know who they are, and they just continually.
What about Uber and Lyft? Because that seems like there's a big issue going on with that right now, where they cut people's pay.
Yeah,
they're making them general contractors. The same situation I was in. I had to get a car, like I blew up one car, had to get another car. It bankrupted me. Like they abused me at the company I was at. I'm not going to name them. I've been abused by several companies over the years. I see how it goes with people. That's why I've totally flipped to this. I see how bad these corporations are, and the only way to get something done is when someone like Obama says, I'm going to make this a priority.
Right.
How do we help Uber and Lyft drivers who are definitely getting abused right now, and they're general contractors? They're paying all the bills for this company.
Right. So I don't want to say I saw this coming, but I saw this coming. So I was a big taxi driver supporter. And when I saw Uber and Lyft come into town, unregulated, with all this other, fancy gadgets and basically put the taxi industry out of business. A lot of folks got hurt. The drivers lost their homes. The medallions that were worth upwards of $700,000 a piece were down to zero in some cases. And I actually voted against Uber and Lyft to protect the taxi drivers. Only 2 people in the entire Senate voted that way, me and someone else. So, and Uber attacked me. Uber did a full-page ad in the newspaper. They came after me in the Boston Herald. They did all this stuff. But I now see, obviously, Uber and Lyft are not going away. And the drivers were sold a bill of goods because they were told they were going to get 20% off the ride. And I just had some drivers come into my office about a month ago, and they've been coming in every week now, and we're going to file a bill to help protect them. So, because Uber and Lyft is now taking upwards of 60-70% of the fare. It's not sustainable, and they want you to get a new car every 5 years.
Yeah.
And
they treat you like an employee. They fire you if you don't do what they want, what you want.
So I'm a little upset with some of the Uber drivers, only because some of the Uber drivers I know helped put the taxi drivers out of business. So I'm trying to separate that because I've been a taxi guy my entire life, and when I travel all around the country, whenever I go away, I'm like, I'm a world traveler, far from it. But when I was in DC, I don't even have the app. I don't even have the app on my phone. I take taxis everywhere, and I talk to the taxi drivers in every city that I go to, and they're hurting. They're hurting, and a lot of these folks came here and was sold a bill of goods too.
They bought a taxi medallion.
Medallion was always going to go up, never going to go down.
$100,000 a piece or whatever it was.
In Cambridge, they were upwards of $500,000.
You're right.
So when you buy something for $500,000 and you're told it's going to go up in value over time,
and then it's
down to zero.
Yeah. It's worth $10,000,
right?
If that even zero. I mean,
it's financial ruin. Yeah. It's financial ruin.
It's not even worth it anymore.
Right, and a lot of people are just giving their medallions back for free, just because they can't afford to keep the cars on the road.
I'm going to do Uber instead. I mean,
right,
they don't have to pay for Uber. I mean, they'll exploit you in another way.
It's a different type of getting screwed.
Exploitation. Yeah.
So, but I'm a workers' rights person, so I'm going to help these drivers. So we are going to help them in some sort of way. We're looking at some language. New York City has passed something. Connecticut is working on some language. We've made out a committee in Connecticut. So we are trying to mirror some of that language and trying to see if we can do it. And the Uber drivers and the Lyft drivers have done a lot of work in the State House. They're going office to office, talking to folks. I was hard on them when they first came in because I knew this was coming. I could see it. You bring a new company in with no regulation, then you want to be all this new gadgets and independence, and quickly they found out that was not the case, and they have some powerful people working in Uber and Lyft. Like there are some
publicly traded companies, both of them now. They're on Wall Street,
but they got big lobbyists. Like
they're
very
people.
very very powerful company.
Right.
And if you go against them, and I know what's coming. I know what's coming when I file this bill. So.
I'm supporting.
We're ready.
If anyone from Uber or Lyft wants to come on, they can come on. I will light your ass up. I will light you up. Send your $1,000 suit, $10,000. I swear to God. And I don't hate Uber and Lyft. I'm not even like I think you hold a grudge a little more than me, but
yeah.
But when you treat employees like crap like this, and I hear what you're saying too, like it just ruined people. There were people. That you imagine your whole life. This is your retirement, $500,000, and you got it in there, and they just bankrupted them, and now they're doing the same thing. They're low wage employees.
That they're
they don't call employees. They call them general contractors.
Right.
You got to pay to work for them, basically, too.
And I understand why people take Uber and Lyft. I get it. I don't begrage anybody
Me
who
neither.
does it.
I don't begrudge.
That's just the way of the world today, and that's fine. Everyone makes choices, and it's very convenient, and it works for a lot of people. So, I don't begrudge the people that use it. I begrudge the people that run it.
That's right. That's me too.
And that's where the line is.
That's it.
So you use it. That's great. I have no problem with that.
Upper management.
Yeah.
The owners of the company.
Right. If you're going to be a company, you have to treat people fairly, and that's your responsibility. That's what we all should be doing. So, and the more power, the more responsibility to do that.
We're just reading comments too on our Facebook page, 502-501-3477. We're almost out of time. It's getting really hot in here too, isn't it? We're dying. I'm dying. I got the suit jacket.
I
on.
can
You,
be.
you are smart.
I'm good till midnight. I'm good.
You good. Here it is. We'll take this question. I have a question for Senator Sal. The current proposal the CCC is considering for delivery of cannabis would force delivery companies to only deliver from retail dispensaries at the price set by those dispensaries. Do you support expanding that framework to allow delivery companies to purchase from licensed cultivators and manufacturers to allow them the opportunity to compete with those dispensaries rather than serving as glorified couriers? Did you get that?
Kind of, sort of, but
There's a proposal right now, like the big dispensaries. They want to delivery only has been talked about as a way to allow the economic empowerment folks to get into the business, less cost, less. And the dispensaries say, "Oh, that's fine, but you have to deliver our product." And so a lot of folks like Grant feel like it should be expanded and that they should be able to buy because there's different licenses.
yeah.
There's manufacturer licenses. So they want to be able to open it up a little more, where the dispensaries want to be the only source of the the dispensaries always want a hand in the sale,
Yeah, no, I get that.
no matter what.
I wonder why. Huh?
And the delivery companies want more flexibility and less regulation in some respects, and more opportunity to shop is really the question.
Yeah, I get that. I gotta look at it more. I don't know too much. That's the first time I've ran across that.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, this is getting in the weeds a little bit, so to speak. But this is what we do over here. We talk,
Yeah.
especially the cannabis issue.
If I know the answer, I'll tell you. If I don't know the answer, I'll say.
Oh, we like that. We like that. That's no BS over here. We don't know everything either, and none of us do. This is how we learn, and this is how we find out.
Right.
And next
right.
time you come back, you might know more about
Exactly.
it. I really appreciate you coming in today. This is great.
This is fantastic. This has been fun.
Anything you want people to? I mean, we didn't even talk about your family or anything.
Yeah, no, I have my wife. I have two boys, 13 and 14, and my dog Buddy.
You got a dog, Buddy?
I got a dog named Buddy. Yep, he's a schnoodle. He's a schnoodle, a poodle schnauzer mix. 3 years old. So
See, some people will want when you come on their shows want to talk all about the kids. I'm all about the dogs. I do dogs.
I'm a proud dad too. I have to say.
I like kids, but dogs are like I don't know.
I gotta say,
speak dog.
My most important title is dad.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure.
Everything else that I do is great. I love doing it.
What are your kids? Do you mind if we ask your kids' names?
Matthew and Sal.
Matthew and Sal. Oh, Sal. Is he Sal Jr.?
He's not a junior. So my
okay.
father's name is Sal. I'm Sal, and I have my son Sal, but no juniors.
Oh,
Just
no
Sal,
juniors.
Sal, and Sal.
I like it.
You
3
know,
Sals.
The three Sals, the three amigos. So,
You know, you just go Sal and someone's answering.
well, I can tell by the tone if it's for me.
Oh, really? Is that how it goes? Awesome. Well, again, I want to thank you, Senator Sal
Yeah.
DiDomenico,
Perfect.
for coming
Yeah,
in.
you're good.
You're the state senator, say the district and the towns and all that
Say
again?
Middlesex and Suffolk. So I have all of Everett, all of Chelsea, all of Charlestown, piece of Alston, piece of Brighton, half of Cambridge, and the west end of Boston.
So you really know that. And you've been serving over 10 years now?
It'll be actually it was 9 years on May 20th.
Oh, so almost 10.
Almost 10. Next year will be 10 years, and I was on the city council in Everett for 6 years prior to that.
Perfect. And you have a website, Facebook. I know you have a Facebook.
We have
How
a
can people
Facebook.
find you and get
Yeah, the website is saldidomenico.com. Facebook is just Sal DiDomenico. That's easy to find. We're on Twitter as well, so there's always ways to find us and see what we're up to. We post a lot of stuff. Brittany Gavrilis is my communication director. She's here with us today, and I bug her all the time, but she's always putting things up. We're always communicating with the people, letting them know what we do, because if I always say if it's not on Facebook, it didn't happen.
That's
So-
right.
so-
And you guys do communicate a lot. I do see you updating all the time. Which is awesome.
we'll be putting some stuff up tonight too. So we
Awesome.
always try to keep it fresh, keep it up to date, and we if you want to have any questions, my office number is 617-722-1650. I'm in room 208 at the State House, Boston, Mass. 02133. You can communicate that way, and my email, which is we get a lot of emails, so that's probably the best way to communicate is sal.didomenico@masenate.gov. So it's sal.didomenico@masenate.gov.
Perfect.
And that's communicate with us, and you will get a response back.
Excellent. I want to thank you again, Senator Sal, for coming in.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
We're the Young Jurks. We'll be back. We're going to end the show a little early today. We only need we had Senator Sal. That was perfect. We don't need any dessert after this. We're probably going to do some more podcasts this week. Check it out, midnightmass.substack.com, or our right direct is anchor.fm/the Young Jurks. Follow us on our Twitter as well, at the Young Jurks, if you don't. We got a lot planned coming up, and again, I want to thank you, Senator Sal. I want to thank Brittany too as well, and you'll come back again, right?
It
wasn't too bad, was it?
No, it was fantastic. It was great.
You liked it?
Yeah, no, I could stay.
It wasn't
Another
boring. I
couple
didn't bore you.
Not at all. No, it was a lot of good topics there.
I'm a very boring boy. The turtle boys don't like me. No, wait. What are they called? Stool boys. Stoolies. Oh, the stoolies. All right, we're the Young Jurks. We'll be back next week, and check out our podcast this week. We got a lot more dropping. Again, I want to thank you so much, Senator Sal. You were awesome today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. It was fun. We'll come back in a few months.
Definitely. And we got a lot of good calls, too. I want to thank the callers as well.
Yeah.
Murphy behind the board, all our listeners, all the comments on our Facebook page. Thank you so much, supporters of the Young Jurks. We'll see you soon. Mike Crawford signing off. Thank you.
Thank you.